Good afternoon, everyone. Wekiva High School welcomes you for the last time of our 15th anniversary season to Mustang Field for varsity baseball competition. Please welcome our guests from Evans High School. They are the Trojans. And they'll be taking on your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Let's meet the teams. We'll begin with our guests from Evans, and we'll start with their leadoff hitter, catcher, number 4, Joseph Santiago. Batting second, shortstop, number 2, Alex Rosado. Third in the lineup for the Trojans, pitcher, number 9, Francis Ramirez. Batting fourth, first baseman number 10, Antonio Bell. Fifth in the lineup for the Trojans, third baseman number 5, Kamari Joseph. In the 6 hole, second baseman number 8, Kanye Roseborough. Seventh in the lineup for Evans, center fielder number 6, Jackley Tizet. Batting 8th for the Trojans, left fielder, number 11, Javier Reyes. And finally for Evans, in the 9 hole, right fielder, number 7, Trayvon Poole. And the Trojans are managed by head coach Kevin Jackson with assistant coach Will Burkett. And now, let's meet the lineup for your Wekiva High School Mustangs. Starting for Wekiva, the leadoff hitter is designated hitter number 3, Dalton Barney. Second in the lineup for the Mustangs, center fielder, number 1, C.J. Goodwin. Batting third for Wekiva, catcher, number 2, Josiah McCoy. The cleanup hitter for Wekiva is pitcher, number 15, Jackson Zapata. Fifth in the lineup for Wekiva, first baseman number 20, Demir Simon. In the 6 hole, shortstop, number 7, Luis Perez. Seventh in the lineup for the Mustangs, right fielder number 4, Lucas Stevens. Batting 8th, left fielder, number 7, Alejandro Carmona. And 9th in the lineup for Wekiva, third baseman, number 11, Andre Moya. Finally in the starting lineup for the Mustangs, fielding at second base, number 10, Chance Griffin. And the Mustangs are managed by head coach Mike Scudero with assistant coach Kevin Farkas. And now we ask that you please stand as we honor America with a presentation of colors by the Wekiva High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. Tonight's detail is under the command of Cadet Staff Sergeant Derek Skeet carrying the U.S. flag. Carrying the Florida State flag is Cadet Second Lieutenant Genesis Herbert. Carrying the Air Force flag is Cadet Airman First Class Zeno Barrego. And the rifle guards are Cadet Senior Airman Elijah Queen and Cadet Senior Airman Prince Rodriguez. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Once again, we welcome everyone to Mustang Field. This is our final regular season home game of our 15th anniversary. For those of you here in the ballpark, we remind you that we are live streaming tonight's game on YouTube and the NFHS network. If you have friends and family back in Orlando, on the other side of Apopka, or anywhere in the world, they can tune in by pulling up the YouTube app on their favorite computer, smart TV, or mobile device and search for Wekiva Sports. If you are a member of the NFHS network, we are also simulcasting this game there, and we previously broadcast the Senior Day festivities. That is on its own separate live stream, and it is available for on-demand replay. For those of you who are already doing just that, we want to welcome you to Mustang Field. My name is Mark Barchi, voice of the Mustangs and sports information director here at Wekiva High School these last 15 years, and I am joined this afternoon, as usual, by my colleague Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief, and we'll be taking you through tonight's game. This is the second of a home and away series that unusually was kind of spread out over the course of the season.
And Thank you, Mark. And again, a lot going on tonight. Of course, this is our baseball finale for the 2022 season, number 15 in Wekiva history. We will have one more broadcast. That will be Wednesday night, the softball team. It's also senior night. If you do not join us, Jackson Zapata, Alejandro Carmona, Lucas Stevens, Andre Moya, and Ryan Wilkerson being honored tonight. This will be their last game. We're at Mustang Field.
And some changes to the starting lineup, as is typical. A little bit of favoritism being shown to seniors, as is appropriate on Senior Day. As we enter the top of the first inning, the leadoff hitter once again for Evans is catcher number 4, Joseph Santiago.
Yeah, and real quick, Jackson Zapata on the mound, one of the seniors just mentioned. And so Joseph Santiago, the catcher, steps in and looks at strike one from Zapata. And on the mound for Evans will be Francis Ramirez as the second pitch. And that'll run the count to 0-2. About 80 degrees, not very few clouds in the sky.
Yeah, beautiful day for baseball here at Wekiva.
7 o'clock, of course. This season has been the first season that we've had lights at both the baseball and softball complexes. So,
at least the first full season where we've really been able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, 1-2 count now. And if you joined us late, after Santiago, Alex Rosado, the shortstop, number 2, Francis Ramirez, the pitcher, number 9, due up in the top of the first inning as Wekiva looking to break a 2-game losing streak. And that'll be at least one more pitch for Santiago as he chops out ball foul. So Wekiva had an opportunity to finish over 500. The 2 losses will prevent them now as the curveball too high, and that runs the count to 2-2. But, Mark, still an opportunity to reach the 10-win mark.
Yeah, this has been certainly a rebuilding year for Wekiva under Coach Scudero, but I would argue that it has been a successful rebuilding year. Wekiva is not still in a position to really compete with the most elite programs in Central Florida, but they are competing at this point.
And again, even though they don't have an opportunity to get over 500, 8-12 with only 2 games left, but certainly they've at least put themselves in a position where that was a legitimate goal throughout this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Wekiva would like to end the home season here on a high note against Evans, who's had their own challenges certainly this year.
Yeah, and you can really look at this, as Mark mentioned, this has been a rebuilding season. I would venture to say that it's really been a 2-year rebuilding process. Of course, Coach Scudero taking over last season, 6 wins last season, as that ball is going to be just a bit inside and high. So Joseph Santiago, the leadoff hitter, will go with the full count against Jackson Zapata.
Hey, you got to give him credit there, battling back from an 0-2 count and fouling away the ones that were close, and then
there's the walk.
Exactly. So he does work his way back from 0-2 to a walk.
So Alex Rosado, the shortstop, will step in. Batter.
Santiago walks to first base. Next at the plate for the Trojans, shortstop number 2, Alex Rosado.
And just to round out that lineup, again, that was Santiago drew the walk. This is Rosado. Ramirez up next, the pitcher. And the rest of your lineup, Bell at first, Joseph at third base, Roseboro at second base, Tuesday at second, as that ball's going to find the hole off the glove of Griffin at second. And then rounding out the lineup, Tuesday, the center fielder, Reyes, the left fielder, in Poole, the right fielder. So runners at first and second now.
Rosado picks up the grounder. He has a base for himself and advances Santiago to second. Next at the plate for Evans, pitcher number 9, Francis Ramirez.
And Ramirez, as Mark just said, the starting pitcher for Evans, looks at strike 1. Just underway, 2 batters in, runners at first and second, nobody out. Jackson Zapata, one of 5 seniors being honored tonight on the mound, and he fires strike 2, an 0-2 count. Live from Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, home of the Wekiva Mustangs, as that ball catches the outside corner. And
Zapata records the strikeout, looking to put one away for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, first baseman, number 10, Antonio Bell.
And so Bell will step in, runners at first and second with 1 out now, and swats that ball off into foul territory. So certainly not only was that a strikeout on Ramirez, but a much needed out. Evans building some momentum with his first 2 batters reaching base, now 1 out. The swing and the miss from Bell.
So Zapata has had some really good pitches, but just hasn't been able to close 2 of the batters. Still has an opportunity to get out of this inning unscathed.
And
that's going straight to Zapata. Should be a 1-3 ground out, and it is. Some good will come from that for the Trojans, though, as that does advance the batter or the runners to 2 and 3. The play is made on the throw from Zapata to Simon on the 1-3 ground out. 2 away now for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, third baseman number 5, Kamari Joseph.
So Joseph steps in, runners at second and third with 2 outs. And curveball up high, 1-0 count. So the first 2 batters for Evans reached base on singles, hard, sharp hit balls. But Zapata and Wekiva has an opportunity to close the door and get out of this with no runs. And that appears to be the case. High fly pop up to Perez. and he calls for it, waves off the third baseman, and after the first two batters reach base, 3 batters in a row retired by Zapata. 0-0 heading to the bottom of the first inning. Wekiva Mustangs Athletic Network.
Perez on the fly catch. It takes us to the middle of the first inning. No runs scored on 1 hit with no Mustang errors, leaving 2 on base. The score remains 0-0 at the end of the first half inning. We'll be right back from Mustang Field. We invite you to join us tomorrow afternoon, where we will be repeating our Senior Day festivities. But for the softball team, we have 2 young ladies to recognize in the senior class of 2022. Those festivities will be getting started at about 4:40 with first pitch at 5 o'clock as the Mustangs host the Panthers to wrap up season 15 of Wekiva softball. And barring any playoff games, that will be our last home game of the year in any sport. So we are saying goodbye to season 15 today and tomorrow here at Mustang Fields. As we enter the bottom of the first inning, the leadoff hitter for the Mustangs is designated hitter number 3, Dalton Varney. Welcome back to live action here at Wekiva Baseball Field. Mark Barchi, voice of the Mustangs, here with you as your PA announcer, and here to help out Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief. We are taking you through our finale of season 15. And Neil, it's hard to believe you and I have been here for all 15 years.
And before we go there, though, as you heard Mark say, Dalton Varney at the plate, the 0-1 count now. It'll be 0-2 as they are able to catch up on the off-speed. C.J. Goodwin, the center fielder, and Josiah McCoy, the catcher, due up in this inning.
Yeah, those are 3 names that we've seen in the starting lineup pretty much every game that we've been here at home.
And then the rest of the lineup, as the count now 1-2, is Jackson Zapata, the starting pitcher, Demir Simon, first baseman, Luis Perez, the shortstop, Lucas Stevens, right fielder, Alejandro Camona, left fielder, and Andre Moya on the hot corner, third base, rounding up the lineup. As Varney, patience at the plate, a couple of balls, and now the 2-2 count. And they will be facing, or they are facing, Francis Ramirez, first batter for Wekiva, and now the full count. So saw this in the first inning with Evans leadoff hitter, Joseph Santiago, 2 strikes to start off, and ran the count to full as Ramirez with the delivery Varney connects, and that is going to find the gap. Slides all the way to the raw. Varney on his horse and into second with the stand-up double, leading off the offense for Wekiva.
Varney with a double into left field. He's safe at second. Next at the plate for Wekiva, center fielder, number 1, C.J. Goodwin.
And Goodwin will step in, runner at second, nobody out. So exactly what Wekiva wanted and needed. Opportunity to take the lead early.
First lefty of the day for Wekiva's batting lineup, and he'll let that one go outside for ball 1.
So your defensive lineup for Evans, Santiago behind the plate, Bell at first, Roseboro in the middle at second as the count, that'll be
that's in the dirt, and that's a passed ball there and an opportunity to get an extra free base.
Rosado, the shortstop, Joseph at the hot corner at third base to complete the infield. And then in your outfield, left to right, Reyes, Tuesday, and Poole. And now runner at third, nobody out, second batter for Wekiva.
That's also low, and again,
Santiago getting in front of that ball enough to keep Varney at bay at third.
Yeah, 2 in a row, very low. Santiago is able to at least bring that one under control to avoid the play at home, and you can't blame Goodwin for looking at that one. With a 3-0 count, it would have had to have been perfect.
So
but that one was definitely close enough as the fastball falls softly into the strike zone.
3-1 count, and he will take ball 4. So Wekiva gets its first 2 batters on, and still nobody out as Jazzy and McCoy steps up.
Goodwin walks to first, and that puts runners at 1 and 3 for catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy.
So McCoy steps in, and as you just heard Mark say, runners at first and third, most importantly, no outs. And that will load the bases. So McCoy doesn't even swing, and he will get first base.
McCoy advances to first. That loads up the bases for the next batter, pitcher number 15, Jackson Zapata.
Zapata again, one of 5 seniors being honored tonight, along with Carmona, Stevens, Moya, and Wilkerson. Evans began the game. First 2 batters got on, single and a double. They were not able to advance 3 straight outs. As an 0-1 count now, swing at that first pitch, Zapata. Wekiva, though, their third batter, McCoy, reached base. He was hit. And now Zapata with the bases loaded and nobody out.
So far things going better for Wekiva than they did on Saturday when Wekiva played Gateway. That was a really tough game for the Mustangs. They had, as we get the low strike on the curve.
Four runs in the second inning scored by Gateway, and that pretty much was curtains.
Correct, and Wekiva on defense just really never could put anything together. They had, I think, 4 errors on the day. On offense, they had 4 runners that ended up out.
Contact, and that's going to go to center field. And a couple of breaks for Wekiva that should have scored Varney on the sacrifice fly, but they don't have to worry about that as Tuesday muffs what should have been an easy first out. So Wekiva takes the 1-0 lead, and the bases remain loaded, and still nobody out in the bottom of the first.
Bases remain loaded. Next at the plate for Wekiva, Demir Simon.
Simon steps in, looks at strike 1 for Ramirez. So Ramirez had some trouble with those first 3 battles, a double by Varney, a single by Goodwin, then he hit McCoy. But that last batter, which was Zapata reaching base, was not of his doing, an error. And we'll see how much of an advantage Wekiva can take of this. And there's their first run scored after the error, now 2-0 in total. As that is actually the 3rd ball in this inning that's gone by Santiago, the catcher.
Yeah, that one I think I have to rule a passed ball because it wasn't actually in the dirt. It was headed toward the dirt, but it was a playable pitch by Santiago.
So Simon steps back in. Great opportunity to help his batting average, his RBI total.
Has to duck out of the way of that one. Now we got a squeeze play going on.
Pickle. And that's McCoy, and he
got there. Wow, 2 runs scored on the error, and what should have been a disastrous play that was really
Wekiva,
poorly thought out.
For Wekiva, turns out to be disastrous for Evans.
I mean, I don't know whether that's smart stupid or stupid smart, but...
Well, the end result is Wekiva with the 4-0 lead and still nobody out in the bottom of the first.
Wekiva is either brilliant or lucky on that play. I'm not sure.
So, hard play to see from our vantage point. We are standing right behind home plate. That's Mark Barchi and me, Neil Fisher. But,
yeah, well, I mean, what happened was...
the umpire is standing right in front of us as well.
Yeah, what happened was the runner on third got a little aggressive with his leadoff and was about
McCoy.
to get. Yeah, McCoy was about to get squeeze played and should have been squeeze played, but he did exactly what the coaches train you to do in that situation. If you're in a desperate situation, you run it out.
You run about halfway and see what the catcher does.
Exactly. Well, or in this case, the third baseman. And what happened was Kamari Joseph way overthrew the catcher trying to make the play at the plate as we get a walk here for Simon. And the rest, as they say, is history. When the ball got away, that allowed not only McCoy to score,
but then it allowed actually Zapata
to come in behind
them. So, yeah, and again, when I said catcher, the error was obviously on the third baseman, Joseph.
Next at the plate for Wekiva, shortstop, number 17, Luis Perez.
But you want to come down halfway and see if the catcher is going to throw the ball to the third baseman or hold it as stolen base and make that third base as well. Wild throw down to second, and the errors continue for Evans, and Wekiva keeps turning them into fruition. Now runner at third, nobody out, bottom of the first. Wekiva already with a 4-0 lead.
And it should be noted that I think none of those 4 runs are earned, if I've been keeping count correctly.
Well, you could say that's debatable.
Well, yeah, the sac fly would have scored a run anyway.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then most likely you would have had at least a couple more runs come in. But
yeah, according to the rules,
should be 2 outs instead of none.
According to the rules of baseball, at least one of those runs is earned because it would have come in no matter what happened with the error.
Yeah, so if I was an official scorekeeper, of course there are none here. It would be 1 earned run, 3 unearned. In any case, Evans has made life much, much, much more difficult than need be on themselves. Of course, they put themselves in the position to get the outs, but then couldn't actually get the outs, as they would say, finish the play.
Perez walks to first. That puts runners at first and third. And up next for the Mustangs, right fielder number 4, Stevens.
So Stevens steps in, right fielder, one of 5 seniors being honored tonight. Of course, Stevens, as Mark mentioned during the senior ceremony, transferred from McCoy this year. And certainly he has found a spot for himself, and we're going to have another unearned run.
And that's a balk.
Yeah, that is Simon trotting across home plate, make the score 5-0. And now,
Neil, I'll rely on your expertise here. Is that actually an earned run? Because it is the pitcher's fault.
Yeah, that is not considered an earned run, as Perez, I was going to mention, also took second on the balk, and now he goes to third. That's the 4th pitch that has gone by Santiago in this inning, the catcher. Yeah, and balks are still considered unearned runs. It's no different than if the batter hits the ball back to the pitcher and he muffs the ball, the attempt to field a ground ball, even though it was actually his fault. It's
a different negative stat against the pitcher.
Yeah, run and unearned runs are based on the fact of whether you should have whether the run should have come in or not, regardless of who made the error or the mistake. So now
should be a 2-1 count.
2-1 count on Stevens. 5-0 lead for Wekiva, bottom of the first, man on third, and nobody out. As Wekiva, well, they will go through the entire lineup in the first inning. 3-1 count now. Stevens, the number 7 batter. As Ramirez steps up to the slap on the mound, and there's your first out, but that does bring in the 6th run of the inning. So Stevens does his job, advances the runner, and Wekiva continues to build on that lead. And still only 1 out now.
Play is made at first on the throw from Alex Rosado to Antonio Bell, but that will score the run for Wekiva. Base is now empty, and next at the plate for Wekiva, left fielder number 7, Alejandro Carmona.
So Carmona will step in with the 6-0 lead. Carmona, also a senior, the left fielder. Runner, nobody on base and 1 out. That is Francis Ramirez on the mound with the first pitch over the plate for strike 1. And this pitch low and gets all the way back to the fence.
And nobody on to take advantage of that particular one that got away, but nevertheless, it puts up a 1-1 count for Carmona. And as you mentioned, Neil, still only 1 out on the board. Had it not been for the errors, that last out would have been the 3rd and would have ended the inning.
This ball lifted into center field, left field actually, and it's going to drop. Miscommunication. Rosada, Tuze, and Reyes all just looked at each other. And to be honest, and again, I'm speaking as a guy who played at the youth level for 17 years, that actually is supposed to be Reyes' ball because he's coming in as opposed to your shortstop moving out, Reyes the left fielder.
Next to the plate for the Mustangs, Andre Moya, number 11.
And so Moya steps in. Runner at first, 1 out, and 6-0 lead for Wekiva, and he comes up hacking at that first pitch.
So, Neil, do you score that last play as a hit or an error?
And that's why I brought up the fact that the left fielder, that is his ball, and he's supposed to call off the other fielders. Yes, I do call that an error. That's a ball that he's supposed to take charge of in terms of who's supposed to catch it.
So Ramirez now
0-2.
opens up Moya to an 0-2 count with the runner on first. Wekiva has now run the full lineup. This is batter number 9.
And we're going to get a stoppage as Moya steps out. Moya, also a senior. 5 seniors being honored tonight. Certainly all has gone well in exactly the way that you'd want things to go on senior night as the sun starts to descend. 1-2 count, the curveball.
I saw the umpire start the signal strike and then pulled it back in.
So Moya will step back in with the 1-2 count. Wekiva High School, the site on the southeast side of Apopka. Runner at first, 1 out. And will this advance the runner? Yes, it will. And over to first. Nice play by Ramirez. Scooping that ball up, keeping his balance, and making a strike over to first where Bell put
Ramirez to Bell for the 1-3 ground out, but that does advance the runner to second. 2 away now for the Mustangs. Next at the plate, Wekiva returns to the top of the card with designated hitter number 3, Dalton Varney.
So Varney 1 for 1. He led off this inning with the double as he looks at ball 1 from Ramirez and scored the first of what is now 6 runs, a 6-0 lead for Wekiva. In the bottom of the first on senior night, Wekiva looking to up its record to 9-12, break a 2-game losing streak, and that'll certainly help, as you like to say, Mark, add to the Wekiva cause. So there is 2 outs, but Carmona now at third, so Varney can reach base That will bring in another run. 6-0. And only 2 base hits in this inning. 6 runs, only 2 base hits. Varney again with a double, one of the 2. Goodwin, who's up next, had the other, a single. As that's now 1-2 count.
I know that should be 2-1.
2-1, excuse me. So Varney will step back in, runner at third base with 2 outs. And he won't have a chance to knock the run in. Another wild pitch. And the 7th run, 7-0 now for Wekiva in the bottom of the first. So again, can't stress it enough, Mark. Only 7 runs, but only 2 hits. A series of not just errors, but mental mistakes from the Evans Trojans. So Varney will step back in now with nobody on base. And a 2-2 count.
That'll bring up a full count.
Full count.
That wild pitch that brought in the run
That's
was
right.
ball 3.
So certainly Wekiva taking advantage, turning a number of mistakes and errors into fruition in the bottom of the first. And speaking of the bottom of the first, it does come to an end with the whiff on Varney, but not before. 7 runs, Wekiva taking command on senior night, 7-0 as we move to the top of the second.
That takes us to the end of the first inning. 7 runs scored on 2 hits with 4 Trojan errors, leaving 1 on base. And the score stands 7-0 at the end of 1 inning. Back with more from Mustang Field after the break. As we enter the top of the second inning, the Trojans will begin in the 6th position of their lineup with second baseman number 8, Kanye Roseborough.
And Roseborough will be followed by Jack Lee Tuzay, the center fielder, and Javier Reyes, the left fielder. And Wekiva with the 7-0 lead. That ball slapped down to first. Simon, first baseman, couple steps to his right. Gobbled up that ball, 1 up, 1 away. Perfect execution.
1 away for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, center fielder number 6, Jackley Tuzay.
So Tuzay steps in, nobody on, 1 out. Wekiva up 7-0 in the top of the second. The swing and the miss. And that is Jackson Zapata on the mound for Wekiva. So, of course, tonight's senior night for Wekiva, but we also had a ceremonial first pitch by Dr. Baptiste, who, of course, The football field is named after Baptiste Orthodontic Stadium, as the count now 1-2. On to Zay. Wekiva with the 7-0 lead, scoring 7 runs in that first inning on a series of errors by Evans. Not just errors in terms of making a bad throw or not coming up with a fielding play, but some bad decisions. Several wild pitches as well as pass balls. And that will be strike 3 on to Zay.
Zapata records the strikeout looking, and that puts 2 away now for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, left fielder number 11, Javier Reyes.
Second strikeout for Zapata, the backwards K. If you're unfamiliar with scoring, that means a called third strike, 2 up, 2 down in the top of the second. Wekiva 7-0 lead with Javier Reyes at the plate.
Zapata on the curve there, a little late on the release, so it drops too low for ball 1.
And we also want to welcome back Brian Bruce, our athletic director, as there's a swing and a miss. Zapata going with some heat, but down low. Of course, our athletic director, Brian Bruce, was out for a couple of weeks. And It's good to see him back.
And he was able to participate in our Senior Day festivities a little bit ago, which, if you didn't hear me mention earlier, that is available for on-demand replay if you missed it. It is a separate live stream, though. We always do that to make it easier for you to find, whether you're looking for the ceremony or the game. As long as the ceremony is either before or after the game, we try to go out of our way.
And that was a 1-2 pitch, so count will remain the same as the ball goes into foul territory. And just to our right, and saw about half a dozen fans scatter away. I'm Neil Fisher, Mark Barchi the other voice. Mark Barchi also the public address announcer here at Wekiva High School, the only public address announcer, as well as sports information director Wekiva High School has ever known.
Yeah, well, it started 15 years ago at the inaugural picnic that they had for the faculty members who were going to open the school. And my wife, of course, is the chorus director here, and she invited me as her date to that picnic at Wekiva Springs State Park.
2-2 count now.
And I struck up a conversation with Ty Parker, who was the first football coach here at Wekiva, and I mentioned that I had done some football announcing in the past, and he said, hey, we could use an announcer for our football games. And I thought, well, gosh, that's only a commitment of 5 games. That sounds like fun. Sure, I'd like to do that. And so I started announcing the football games, and the rest, as they say, is history. Yeah, Zapata records the swinging strikeout, and that will take us to the middle of the second inning. 3 up and 3 down. No runs scored on no hits, with no Mustang errors, leaving none on base. And the score remains 7-0 at the end of an inning and a half. Back with more from Mustang Field right after the break. Once again, we'd like to invite everyone to join us tomorrow night. You just saw our Senior Day festivities as we bid farewell to the baseball class of 2022. We had 5 young men that we recognized. Now we have 2 young ladies that we will be recognizing tomorrow in just the same way as we bid farewell to the softball class of 2022. That will get started at about 4:40, about 20 minutes before first pitch, over at the softball field tomorrow, and that will also be our final regular season home game of our 15th anniversary year here at Wekiva. We hope you'll join us for that in person or online on our YouTube channel, Wekiva Sports. We'd also like to invite you, if you are not already doing so, to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at 1,941 subscribers. Nothing particularly special happens at 2,000. other than a psychological milestone. But we'd still love to get there. It'd be a great way to cap off season 15. So if you would like to be one of those last 59 subscribers to get us to 2,000, we would love you to be a part of that. Just go to our YouTube channel, click that red subscribe button. If you're watching us online now, make sure you subscribe before you leave as we continue to grow our online broadcasting program. As we enter the bottom of the second inning, the Mustangs will begin in the second position of their lineup with center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin.
And Goodwin will be followed by Jazzy and McCoy, the catcher, and Jackson Zapata, the pitcher, who so far, it's early, but is throwing a shutout as strike 1 from Ramirez. Wekiva with the 7-0 lead. They sent 10 batters to the plate in that first inning, first 6 batters reaching base. And Goodwin, the second hitter, not only in the lineup, but the second hitter last inning to reach base. He did so on a single and scored the second run.
That one gets away from Santiago. Nobody on to take advantage of it, but it brings up a 1-1 count. Should also point out that Evans has exactly 9 players on their roster. And if you look over in their dugout, there are a couple of other players in uniform, so it's possible they may have some subs they just didn't write down for me. But bottom line is limited bullpen offerings.
That ball sliced into left field, and Goodwin takes the turn but decides to hold.
Single grounder into left field, picked up by Goodwin, and that puts a runner at first for catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy.
And so 2 for 2 for Goodwin, a pair of singles. 7-0 lead as as McCoy steps in. He reached base in that first inning also. Hit batsman and scored a run. And he looks at ball 1 on the curve. And on the other side of the infield, Goodwin living up to the nickname Mustangs as he gallops down to second. Stolen base.
Yeah, it looks like Wekiva is perhaps inspired by the confidence of having a 7-0 lead, is pretty much just going for stealing second on the first available pitch as we get a wild pitch there. And that's going to make an easy opportunity to pick up third. So runner in good scoring position with no outs on the board as we get a 2-0 count at the plate.
Yeah, and so before the end of the last inning, we were, of course, talking about Mark. He has been the only public address announcer here at Wekiva, as well as the only sports information director.
And, Neil, you've been the only dedicated print journalism reporter.
Well, really, the only reporter, not just print, but as McCoy takes that another curveball.
Yeah, that's 3-0 now.
So just wanted to also point out, of course, Mark talked the story. He came to the first picnic. It was a faculty picnic for the faculty that opened up the school a few months later. As there's a nice solid hit. That's going to be extra bases all the way to the wall. It's 8-0 as Goodwin scores and off to third. Will it be a triple for McCoy? Yes, he slides in, throw up the line. And even if it was on target, I think McCoy would have had third base. So 8-0, bottom of the second, runner at third, and still nobody out.
Josiah McCoy hits a triple deep into left field. He has 3 bases for himself and the RBI as Goodwin comes home. Next at the plate for Wekiva, pitcher number 15, Jackson Zapata.
Zapata 0 for 1, but scored a run in that first inning. He actually reached base on an error by the center fielder. Tuze dropped what should have been a routine out, and he'll look at ball 1. So, again, Mark came to the faculty picnic for the faculty that was opening up the school, talked to Coach Parker, the very first football coach, and Coach Parker basically offered him a job as that ball skips up and over Rosado, and that'll bring the score to 9-0 as Zapata now 0 for 2, but reached base both times on an error.
Next at the plate for the Mustangs, first baseman number 20, Demir Simon.
And so to make a long story short, because we're looking at 15 years, that invitation, that offer from Coach Parker to do 5 football games, as there won't be a throw to second, and as you said, Mark, with the now 9-0 lead, certainly nothing to lose, and it has Mark's role has blossomed into much, much more. He's the voice for all home games, all sports, all seasons, and of course he also is the sports information director here as well. And also wanted to bring up to Mark, you're a graduate of Rollins, 2007.
Correct, 2007 and 2008, undergraduate and graduate degrees.
As is your wife Jamie, who you mentioned. Was why you came to that faculty picnic to begin with.
Correct. And yeah, the first year I just did football, and then Scott Williams heard me announcing football and said, hey, you got to come announce basketball. And I thought, well, gosh, that's a lot more games, but I really love announcing basketball. So I said, and it's hard to say no to Coach Williams. You know that as well as I do. So I said yes to that, and then one thing led to another, and before you know it, I'm announcing pretty much everything we do here on campus.
And this is Demir Simon at the plate. Demir, no official plate appearances. He walked in this first inning. Wekiva with the 9-0 lead, bottom of the second on senior night. They scored 7 runs in the first, added a couple here in the second. Nobody out, runner at second base.
Now the runner at second was thrown out, actually.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
And we have an uncaught third strike, and he's going to beat it. So the strikeout officially there for Ramirez, but no out put up.
And that'll bring Luis Perez up to the plate.
Simon advances to first on the uncaught third strike. Next at the plate for Wekiva, shortstop number 17, Luis Perez.
Perez, like Simon, without an official at bat, he walked in his first plate appearance.
So again, the Trojans struggling, can't get an out even when they get an out.
As the sun descends.
And of course, that'll count as a strikeout in Ramirez's stats because it's not his fault. That one's going out of play.
And that'll run the count to 0-1. Excuse me, 0-2. So again, this is the last game, baseball game at Wekiva High School, senior night, as is the tradition. Always held on the last home game. And this is not a senior. Luis Perez a freshman, so he's got a ways to go. As we got timeout, and
it's going to be another balk.
Okay. Second balk of the game from Ramirez. Wekiva comes in 8-12, but more importantly looking to snap a 2-game losing streak.
Yeah, and again, they did not play well on Saturday. I mean, Gateway probably played above average for the season that they've been having, but Wekiva just had a lot of unforced mistakes on Saturday, and so they're looking to bounce back from that tonight. Again, Evans has certainly given them a few gifts, but certainly we like to see what we saw just a moment ago with the triple. That's the way you really want to put runs on the board, is because of what you're doing right, not because of what the other team is doing wrong. That one's in the dirt and bobbled, an opportunity for Simon to take third, and he does. Evans decides to make discretion the better part of valor on that one and not try to make the play, knowing how disastrously that's gone from them the last couple of times they tried it. They'll just go ahead and eat that base.
Yeah, and speaking of Luis Perez, again, he's at the plate now with a 1-2 count. A product of the Apopka Little League system. Didn't play the last couple of years there, but for many, many years before that, he was a regular. As that ball goes inside. And the reason I bring that up, Mark, is of course we've talked about Coach Scudero. This is his second year. He is rebuilding this program. It's been somewhat slow at times, somewhat tedious, but certainly 6 victories last season, 8, and looks like they're going to be on the way to 9th. Those are milestone marks. Last year, 6 was the most victories they had in over a decade, so obviously this year with what should be a 9th victory, that will also be a new mark. But one of the things that he talked about now is he wants to start getting some off-season competition, be able to get his players to play during the off-season. Apopka Little League, of course, is one of those feeder systems for Wekiva in the area, as Perez stood at home plate.
Yep, retires the batter there as Ramirez records the strikeout, and that puts 2 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, right fielder number 4, Stevens.
And so one of the problems that Coach Scudero and Coach Fracas, his assistant coach, are facing as Stevens steps in. He's 0 for 1, but has an RBI. Apopka, of course, you are in competition with Apopka High School. It's been 15 years, so it's not quite as intense as it was maybe during the first 5 years when you had a lot of students who were expecting to go to Apopka and wound up coming here to Wekiva, but still, I would say probably 2 out of every 3 players that come through the Apopka Little League go to Apopka and not Wekiva. Of course, I brought this all up because Luis Perez, the last batter, came through the Apopka Little League system. He's that 1 out of 3 that comes here to Wekiva. So Coach Scudero needs to find other alternatives than the Apopka Little League to develop that off-season program of competition.
So that'll bring up a 1-2 count as Stevens fouls another one away. We were talking a little bit about the 15-year history at Wekiva. We're going to be celebrating that on Thursday. I mentioned a moment ago my wife is the chorus director here at Wekiva. They're going to have their spring concert, We Are One, Thursday. And, of course, every year they select a theme for the concert. And this year that theme is that all of the selections...
1-2 count now.
It'll be a 2-2. I didn't put the button yet. All of the selections at that chorus concert are chosen by inaugural staff members from Wekiva, those who have been here for all 15 years. And she even let me select something, since even though I'm not officially on the regular staff, I've been a part of Wekiva since it opened, so I got to pick one of the songs for the concert, and in fact even got to arrange it.
And so Stevens looks at that curveball up high, and that runs the count to full count. And so with 2 outs...
And this is, I don't remember the exact number, but this should be roughly game number 1,805 or 6 for me. I just crossed 1,800 a couple of weeks ago. And that, I must have been, I know, okay,
yeah,
it is
that
a ball.
is a walk.
Yeah, I would say either I counted wrong or he did.
Yeah, Stevens, I think, lost track. He stood at home plate for about 5 seconds, and finally our umpire said, yeah, go on down to first base.
So Stevens walks to first, and next at the plate for the Mustangs will be left fielder number 7, A.J. Carmona.
And so Carmona steps in. Runner at first in third with 2 outs. And he won't get a chance to knock a run in. Another wild pitch. And Demir Simon trots across home plate with the 10th run, and now a 10-0 lead in the bottom of the second for Wekiva on senior night. So Carmona looking at a 1-0 count. He is actually 0 for 1, but scored a run in that first inning, reached on an error. So Wekiva's put up 10 runs. Again, the 10-0 lead. They have only 4 hits, though, but those 4 hits, a double and a single to start off the first, and a single and a triple to start off the second inning.
So since Wekiva now has just established a 10-run scoring differential, it is worth bringing up, at least briefly, the game-ending rules that the FHSAA has adopted. The rule is 10 runs in 5 innings or 15 runs in 3 innings. So if Wekiva were to maintain at least this lead, then the game could end at 4.5. If Wekiva were to increase that lead by 5 more, then the game could end at the end of the 3rd inning. But I should note that the 15-3 rule does require that you complete the whole 3rd inning. You cannot end a game after 2.5. So that'll bring up a 2-2 count as it goes out of play behind the backstop.
So in addition to the 4 hits that Wekiva's garnered, they've had 3 walks and a hit batsman as Rodriguez goes back to work.
And that one drops into the strike zone. Looked like it was going to be high, fell at the last second, and that will retire the batter. Ramirez records the strikeout looking, and that takes us to the end of the second inning. In that half inning, the Mustangs scored 3 runs on 1 hit with 1 Trojan error, leaving 1 on base, and the score stands 10-0 at the end of 2 innings. Back with more from Mustang Field as we wrap up Season 15 right after the break. As we enter the top of the 3rd inning, the Trojans begin in the 9th position of their lineup with right fielder number 7, Trayvon Poole.
And Joseph Santiago and Alex Rosado will follow Poole in the top of the 3rd. 10-0 Wekiva. And Jackson Zapata continues on the mound for Wekiva. He's given up 2 hits, no walks, and struck out 4, and he begins the top of the 3rd with ball 1.
A little bit too aggressive on the curve there as it falls low and outside. Second pitch away, that goes to just about the same place, but that one tempted Poole to swing at it, 1-1.
And so Wekiva, only 4 hits, but 7 runs in the first, 3 in the second. And that will be low and outside, so a 2-1 count. Of course, Wekiva Field, home of the Mustangs on the southeast side of Apopka, the site. Wekiva looking to up its record at 9-12, break a 2-game losing streak. And that'll run the count to 2-2. Zapata finding the outside corner with the slider.
Yeah, he's been sending curves and sliders to that edge of the batter's box this whole at-bat, and that one managed to catch the right side of it. We're going to send one away out of play here.
Tomahawked over in foul territory by Poole. So Wekiva's story right now, they are a team that I guess you could say is rebuilding. Coach Scudero took over last year where they won 6 games. Has the 2-2 count, and that will be strike 3. Yes, strike 3. As Poole
Zapata records the strikeout looking, 1 away for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, they return to the top of the lineup guard with catcher number 4, Joseph Santiago.
So 3 consecutive strikeouts now for Zapata, 4 in total. And as I was saying, Wekiva last year, Mike Scudero's first as coach, won 6 games. That was the most they'd won in roughly a decade, as Santiago takes low and outside for ball 1. This year they've won 9 games. I'm including tonight's game, most likely. No reason to believe that Evans is going to rally and produce what would be a very sports-center type comeback. As this ball is lifted over to Perez, he calls for it and bags it for out number 2. And that'll bring up Alex Rosado.
Perez makes the fly catch at short. 2 away now for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, shortstop number 2, Alex Rosado.
So with the 9th win tonight, Mark, Wekiva will not have enough games left. They only have 1 more game left, so they won't be able to reach the 500 mark. But this is also the first time this season as that ball sliced foul, and it's now an 0-1 count, that Wekiva actually had a legitimate opportunity. You know, they could even think legitimately about reaching 500.
Yeah, and I mean, while that would be a nice psychological milestone, a 10-win season is also a good psychological milestone to prove that Wekiva is headed in an upward direction and is poised to be competitive over the next few seasons. Of course, we are going to say goodbye to 5 very talented players, a couple of whom are in the pitching bullpen, one of whom is on the pitcher's mound right now.
Yeah, it's Jackson Zapata. As that ball is bounced over to third. And Moya, speaking of seniors, he's one of those 5, grabs that ball, and not the best throw, but give Simon credit. He stretched and came up with that 3rd out, and that'll keep the score at 10-0.
Moya makes the throw to Simon for the 5-3 ground out, and the Trojans will go 3 up and 3 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, none left on base, and the score remains 10-0 at the end of 2.5 innings.
And we'll be back for the bottom of the 3rd inning. Wekiva at the plate.
We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Wekiva Sports on all 4 of those services. You'll get live updates from many of our home athletic events, as well as news and information about our athletes and alumni. Again, we are at Wekiva Sports on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. As we enter the bottom of the 3rd inning, the Mustangs begin in the 9th position of their lineup with 3rd baseman number 11, Andre Moya.
So Moya will be followed by Dalton Varney and C.J. Goodwin. He's now looking at a 1-0 count. Wekiva with the 10-0 lead. Certainly they've made senior night a enjoyable night, and that did hit Moya, so he'll take first base. Third consecutive inning, the leadoff hitters reached base.
Moya advances to first, and next at the plate, Wekiva returns to the top of the card with designated hitter number 3, Dalton Varney. So this is actually now the third pass through the lineup Wekiva will have made in as many innings.
Yeah, Varney 1 for 2, doubled very first Wekiva batter, scored the very first run, and then struck out in his last at bat. And he'll now have an RBI opportunity. Moya swiping second. And of course, once the ball got by Santiago,
and that was a guaranteed outcome, although I think he
deal.
probably would have made it anyway. Yeah, I think at this point you can just count on any time Wekiva gets to first. They're going to second on the first pitch.
With the 10-0 lead, nothing to lose. Santiago keeps that ball in front of him. 2-0 count now. 3-0, excuse me. And Ramirez back to work. And gets that ball on the outside corner. So hitters count. Varney.
Yeah, I wouldn't have swung at that one either, though. That was a bad pitch to swing at, strike or not, when you've got a 3-0 count.
The delivery from Ramirez, and that's going to find the gap down that left field line. Rounding third as Varney gets the signal from Coach Scudero, and into second after pounding that ball down the left field line. Varney 2 for 3 now in an RBI.
Dalton Varney trades places with Andre Moya, picking up the RBI double to left field. Next at the plate for Wekiva, center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin.
And Goodwin will step in with the 11-0 lead now. He's 2 for 2 today. Scored a run both times. And he also has an RBI opportunity in that. Well, no advancement. Varney stays at second. And now a 1-0 count.
Kind of surprised he didn't go for third there.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that he was still there.
I don't know, maybe he was checking his Twitter. I'm not sure.
That double by Varney was, by the way, only the 5th hit accumulated by Wekiva. Something of an odd stat given that they're up 11-0. And that ball chopped over to the shortstop. Rosado over to first. So that is the first out of the inning. Goodwin retired for the first time today, but runner over at third and only 1 out.
Play is made at first on the throw from Rosado to Bell on the 6-3 ground out, 1 away for the Mustangs. It does, however, advance the runner to third with Varney. And we'll pause here for a timeout.
And so, again, if you joined us late, first, thank you for joining us. But my partner, the other voice you're hearing, that's Mark Barchi. I'm Neil Fisher. Mark is also our public address announcer, so sometimes that's why you do hear us repeating each other.
Yes, Neil will do exactly what he's trained to do and tell you what you need to know on the broadcast, and then I will say exactly the same thing over the public address system.
So, not sure exactly why we have a stoppage, but as you can see, Ramirez throwing some balls, so my guess would be that it was some type of injury.
Well, this is Kamari Joseph on the mound now. So
okay. Oh, it is 5.
Yeah,
okay.
we've got
so
a new
they did
pitcher.
make a pitching change.
Yep.
Okay, so Joseph takes over, And he will do so with a runner at third and 1 out. Wekiva up 11-0. It's been pretty much everything you'd want when you're celebrating senior night. 5 seniors being honored tonight. Jackson Zapata, number 15. Alejandro Carmona, number 7. Lucas Stevens, number 4. Andre Moya, number 11. And Ryan Wilkerson, number 13. The 5 seniors being honored, and they've all contributed except for Wilkerson. Of course, Wilkerson, a pitcher, does not bat very often, came in with less than 10 bats a season, so he has not seen any time tonight. Of course, Ryan, if you follow Wekiva, you know this. He was a member of the varsity team as a freshman and has pretty much been in every pitching position from starter to middle relief to the short relief guy, the closer.
Now on the mound for the Trojans is number 5, Kamari Joseph. And Francis Ramirez will trade places with him at third base. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy.
So Jackson Zapata actually at the plate. As that ball will get by Ramirez or Santiago, but he does enough to keep the runner at third. Slow roller. Yeah, and McCoy, who was the batter when the pitching changed, he's now at second. So runner at second and third with only 1 out. And Zapata 0 for 2 today, but he scored a run. As Evans will catch a break there on that wild pitch again.
Yeah, that one was probably, Wekiva's been bold, but I don't think they're that bold to try to come home. That one was going to clearly stay in control at the backstop.
Yeah, well, the underlying reason that there was no attempt at home was just it was thrown so wildly, as that's going to go foul, and that will run the count to 2-1. That's where the wildness actually was a break for Evans. It played to Evans' hands. Because it was so wild, it bounced back. Yeah, so almost back to home plate.
Got a little break there. It's like on a football kickoff where you catch a favorable bounce. Oh, that one will have to duck out of the way. Zapata.
So runners at first and second, 1 out.
Yeah,
Jackson Zapata at the plate, an 11-0 lead for Wekiva.
Yeah, if he were about 6 inches taller, he would have been a hit batsman there.
So Joseph on the mound, and we'll keep battling as the count now evened at 2-2.
Yeah, that was a high fastball.
Actually, it's a full count.
Hard to say if that would have been called a strike or not, but he chops at it anyway. Sends it again into the backstop. Thanks for joining us here on Monday night. Again, if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we are just about 50 subscribers and change away from hitting the 2,000 mark, which would be a nice way. Oh, this one's headed over here.
About 3 feet from us, Mark?
Yep. We are officially in the splash zone here.
So, of course, Mark and I, we set up our mobile booth, if you will, is right behind home plate. As Zapata steps back in, Joseph gets his sign. And he'll be trying to quell this rally. And he'll have to go to at least one more pitch to get that second out. Now a full count on Zapata. Mustang field the sight. And ball 4 inside. So Joseph starts off with 2 strikes, but can't get that third strike, and bases are now loaded with 1 out for Wekiva.
Checking into the lineup for the Mustangs Number 31, Fonseca. So this is Demir Simon's spot in the lineup, and now Wekiva has started to use some of their dugout as we pick up ball one high.
So Fonseca comes in with as good an opportunity as there is in baseball to up that RBI total. Bases loaded, 1 out. And the middle of the infield playing back, which should not be a surprise. Down 11-0, they're conceding a run. The third baseman, Ramirez, playing even with the bag. As the 1-0 pitch, make that 1-1. Wekiva comes in with an 8-12 record, so looking to up their record to 9-12, 9th win. This is the last game at home for Wekiva, and that'll run the count to 2-2. Joseph gets his sign, the righty. And he gets strike 3. The ball is dropped, but no need to throw down to first, although Santiago did. So
Joseph records the swinging strikeout to put 2 away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, shortstop number 17, Luis Perez.
Yeah, and just to go back to that strikeout to complete the thought, this is a rule in all levels of baseball. If there is a runner on first, you do not have to throw the ball when it's dropped on the third strike.
Yeah, I mean, you understand going through the motions anyway. You're going through muscle memory at that point.
And Perez waxed that first ball, foul territory. Perez 0 for 1 tonight, walked in the first inning, scored a run, and then struck out. And, of course, Perez, the younger brother of Yalisha Perez, who was a 4-year starting shortstop for the softball team, as well as a pitcher. And he's trying to up that 11-0 lead. Taking a couple of hard whacks, but nothing doing in terms of putting the ball in fair territory. And so Joseph, who came in on relief, this is his second pitcher, might quell the rally, 1 strike away from putting out the fire, as they say. That ball's outside, so a 1-2 count now. Mustang Field, the site, and southeast Apopka, next to the 429. And there's another wild pitch. This one swinging wide of Santiago on his right side. And
that'll give an opportunity to score another run, as the Mustangs will go ahead and accept that gift.
That makes it a 12-0 lead and a 2-2 count on Perez. And Santiago readjusting his equipment behind the plate. So that'll leave runners at second and third. There are 2 outs. That's good news for Evans. Perez at the plate with the 2-2 count. Joseph gets his sign, back to work. And this is a shortstop. Hard chopped over there. Over to first. And yes, Bell with the reach and the grab. And so Wekiva unable to get probably as many runs as you'd think with bases loaded and 1 out. Nonetheless, they do get 1 run in. 12-0 as we head to the top of the 4th from Mustang Arena.
Takes us to the middle of the 3rd inning as the play is made from Rosado to Bell on the 6-3 ground out. In that half inning, the Mustangs scoring 2 runs on no hits with no Trojan errors, leaving 2 on base, and the score remains 12-0 at the end of 2.5. Back with more from Mustang Field after the break. The Trojans will begin the fourth inning. In the third position in their lineup with pitcher and now third baseman number 9, Francis Ramirez. And they open up with ball 1 as that goes outside.
And Ramirez will be followed by Antonio Bell, the first baseman, and Kamari Joseph now pitching. He came in that top of the inning, and there's a hit sliced through the hole by Ramirez on the right side. And so Evans begins
pick up their
the
second hit of the game.
Second hit of the game. And more importantly, they begin the fourth inning with the leadoff batter on base.
Ramirez safe at first on the grounder into right center field. Next at the plate for the Trojans, first baseman number 10, Antonio Bell.
And Bell 0 for 1 today. Did get a sacrifice in the first inning, grounding out to Jackson Zapata, who's still on the mound for Wekiva. 1 of 5 seniors being honored tonight. As we are now at night, the sun has completely descended next to State Route 414.
Yeah, and certainly it has been, as you mentioned earlier, a real game changer to have lights on the field here at Wekiva. Previous to last season, of course, Wekiva could not host any game that started later than about 5 o'clock, even after the time change. Otherwise, you risked running out of daylight. And now, finally, we are in a position where that is not the case. And we are able to host games in the evening. We don't always choose to. Sometimes we'll start the games at 5 or 6 o'clock, but we have the option to start games at 7 if we wish, and that was what we were able to do tonight, particularly so that Dr. Baptiste could join us for the ceremonial first pitch, and so that our parents could join us for senior night. But it is so nice to do that. I know that a lot of baseball coaches actually have mixed feelings about having lights on the field because they like having afternoon games. It means that they don't have to go home and come back after school. They can get home earlier and have dinner at a reasonable hour with their families. It makes a lot of sense if you're a coach or a student that it's nice to play those afternoon games. However, I can't tell you how many games I have come to at Wekiva and announced to an empty grandstand, not because nobody cared, but because nobody could get here. Double play opportunity, can't convert, but the line out is still recorded. Play is made at second base for the Mustangs by Griffin on the line out. Not able to make the play at first for the double play, but it does put one away for the Trojans. Next at the plate for Evans, pitcher number 5, Kamari Joseph.
So Joseph steps in with a runner at first and 1 out now. He's 0 for 1. Flying out to Perez, the shortstop in that first inning, and he looks at ball 1. And so, Mark, going back to your point, and just to add to it, as the count now 1-1, you know, of course, I've spent part of my adulthood in education. I actually did work as a substitute teacher, a regular substitute teacher for several years here at Wekiva until the pandemic. And I just always have great admiration for them. Obviously, the whole teaching part of it, but just the fact you have to be here at 7 o'clock every morning if you're teaching. School starts at 7:15. You got to get here at 7, which means you're probably getting up at 6 in the morning.
Oh, yes, believe me. Yeah, I'm usually still asleep when my wife leaves the house in the morning.
Well, and where I was going with all that was just simply the fact I understand a lot of people get up at 6 in the morning. It's not unusual in itself, but to your point, what you were talking about, when you play a game at 7, you're not getting to bed till after midnight.
Correct. So, yeah, that makes for a very long day and not a lot of sleep before you have to be up to do it all again the next morning. And, yeah, certainly our coaches, especially our faculty coaches, because we know what their daytime schedule is like, it makes for a lot of long days, and they make a lot of sacrifices for these players.
Ball slapped down by Zapata and goes into no man's land, so it'll be a single for Joseph. Leaves runners at first and second with 1 out.
Joseph picks up the grounder off the mound, and that will be a single for him. Puts runners at 1 and 2. For the Trojans' next batter, Second baseman, number 8, Kanye Rose. That's Roseboro.
Roseboro steps in, 0 for 1 tonight. Grounded out to first base in the second inning. And now we'll try the other side. Perez over to his right, and wild throw, and that'll be a run. So Perez, the shortstop, making probably what you could say is a mistake of inexperience. Not that because he's played shortstop, but at the varsity level, probably, as you like to say, Mark, discretion, the better part of value, should have eaten that ball.
Next up, center fielder number 6, Jacques Tuzet.
And that leaves the score at 12-1, and runners at second and third with 1 out.
Yeah, I mean, I think on that last batter, I think you have to award both the hit and the error there. Probably one base was earned, the second was not. As we pick up strike 2 here on the outside corner.
So strikeout certainly would be a big boost for Zapata. Zapata, the starter, pitching into the 4th inning, and he'll have to go one more pitch to get that third strike. 1-2 count now. Wekiva looking to up its record to 9-12. We are in run rule territory, which we'll get to in a minute. And there is, no, that was fouled off. Tuzet did get a piece of that, just enough. And so the run rule is, at this point, five innings, a 10-run lead. The game is then over.
Correct. If Wekiva were to advance the lead to 15 runs, it could potentially end at the end of the 4th. Otherwise, with a 10-run lead, it could end at the middle of the 5th.
Yeah, it's a 15-run after the 3rd inning. We're in the 4th, or 10 runs after the 5th. So as of now,
that'll be a strikeout.
That is a strikeout. Tuzet.
Well, maybe not. I thought I saw the umpire signal strikeout.
Yeah, I did too. Tuzet's not sure.
Yeah, there we go.
Well,
okay, he's officially
got some.
Took a little convincing, but
got some Benny Hill action going on in terms of doing some dancing there for you older fans.
Zapata records the strikeout. 2 away now for the Trojans. Next at the plate will be
that's the 5th strikeout for Zapata.
Now at the plate is left fielder number 11, Javier Reyes.
So Reyes, second and third with 2 outs now. 12-1 score, 12-1 lead for Wekiva. In the bottom of the 4th, straightaway center. Goodwin waits for it, positioned perfectly. And so much for the shutout, but Wekiva still with the 11-run lead, 12-1, as we head to the bottom of the 4th from Mustang Arena.
That takes us to the middle of the 4th inning. 1 run scored on 2 hits with 1 Mustang error, leaving 2 on base, and the score now stands 12-1 at the end of 3.5 innings. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the middle of the 4th inning, and that means it's time for the 4th inning stretch. For the very last time of Season 15, stand up, stretch your legs, and join us now for Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back, for it's root for the Mustangs. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. As we enter the bottom of the fourth inning, the Mustangs will begin in the 7th position of their lineup with right fielder number 4, Stevens.
And Stevens will be followed by Alejandro Carmona, the left fielder, and then Andre Moya, the third baseman. Wekiva with the 12-1 lead in the bottom of the fourth inning, looking to up its record to 9-12, which the 9 victories would be a new mark over the last 10 years. Wekiva scoring 7 runs in the first, 3 in the second, and 2 in the third, only 5 hits, which of course, Mark, means you're getting on base with a lot of walks and hit batsmen and errors.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell just by looking at the box score about how this is going. Even if you haven't seen the whole game to this point. So again, Stevens will open up the bottom of the fourth. Wekiva, if they were to pick up 4 runs and get no answer to that, or if they were to pick up 4 runs here, the game would end immediately. If they were to at least keep a 10-run differential, then it could end at the middle of the 5th.
Yeah, that is the rule adopted by the FHSAA. And Stevens takes ball 1 from Joseph, who came in the last inning. And that'll be ball 2. Slider a bit too high. Wekiva began the game, or at the bottom of its first at bat, bottom of the first 6 batters reaching base, as the count now 2-1. And that led to 7 runs. They chased the starter Francis Ramirez in the last inning, and now a 3-1 count on Stevens. So tonight is senior night. 5 seniors, Stevens one of those being honored. Senior night, as is tradition, also is held before the last home game. And Wekiva looking to break a 2-game losing streak, has come good wood on that one. And Poole, I think he just lost his footing. And now we'll have another error. Fortunately, that ball was thrown so off balance, so off target that it went all the way to the third base, and no opportunity for another base, third base, to be taken by Stevens. But the leadoff hitter is on.
Stevens advances to second. Next at the plate for the Mustangs, left fielder number 7, A.J. Carmona.
Carmona steps in 0 for 2 today, but did reach base in that first inning and scored a run. And he'll have an opportunity to up the Wekiva lead, 12-1.
First pitch low and inside for a 1-0 count.
So again, Stevens reaching base on the air as the count goes 2-1. And of course,
now I believe error number 6, if I've been counting correctly, for Evans tonight.
Yeah, and I think it looked like Stevens just lost his footing out there. Not really sure exactly where he was in terms of where he needed to position himself. And 2-2 count. Two-one count.
That was way up high, and Carmona swung at it anyway.
Yeah, Joseph climbing the ladder with that pitch.
And no need to chase those.
2-2 count. Runner at second, nobody out. Stevens on second, the leadoff batter. And
that was the one he should have swung at.
Carmona goes down, stood at home plate like the house on the side of the road.
Joseph records the strikeout looking. That puts one away for the Mustangs. Next at the plate for Wekiva, third baseman number 11, Andre Moya.
So the 3 batters who are due up in this inning, Stevens, Carmona, and Moya, they're all seniors. And
Doink.
Hit batsman, the second of the game for Wekiva. And that'll put runners at first and second without a hit.
Moya advances to first. Runners at 1 and 2 now as Wekiva returns to the top of the lineup card with designated hitter number 3, Dalton Varney.
And so, as Mark just mentioned, I'm Neil Fisher. Mark is in Mark Barchi. The top of the lineup now, and the 1 and 2 hitters are 4 for 5. This will advance the runner as there's no throw over to first. Rosado scooping that ball up, the shortstop, and going to second. Roseboro for the force.
Play is made at second base from Rosado to Roseboro on the 6-4 fielder's choice. 2 away for the Mustangs, but runners now at 1 and 3 for center fielder number 1, C.J. Goodwin.
So Goodwin 2 for 3 tonight. Pair of singles, first and second inning, scored on both of those. And a 1-0 count.
All right, I understand pretty obviously why Stevens didn't come home. I'm not entirely sure why Moya didn't why Varney didn't go to second, though.
So Joseph will go back to work, 1-0 count to Goodwin, and second pitch in a row with nobody move. Second pitch in a row that gets by Santiago and nobody on the move.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is coach's direction that Varney is staying put. But, yeah, that were 2 opportunities there.
So 2-0 count to Goodwin. 12-1 lead for Wekiva in the bottom of the 4th, and that'll make it a 2-1 count.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll mention is that while you might intuitively think, oh, the sportsmanlike thing to do in this situation is not to run up the score and 15-run rule the team, but there actually is a tactical advantage to doing that because the fewer innings you pitch, the fewer pitchers you have to use with the new FHSAA pitch count rules that went into effect a couple of seasons ago, and that one not in the same zip code as the batter's box.
Yeah, the first 2 were wild. That was like 4 or 5 times wild. That was the zip code over in downtown Orlando.
Yeah, Elastigirl couldn't have picked that one up.
So, but that does leave the count at 3-1.
But yeah, I've spoken to some baseball coaches about this since that pitch count rule went into effect a couple of seasons ago, and now Varney doesn't have a choice. He has to go to second because there's nowhere else to go.
Bases are now loaded with 2 outs, and McCoy will be at the plate.
Goodwin advances to first on the walk. That loads up the bases for catcher number 2, Josiah McCoy.
Now, McCoy only has 1 hit. Talked about the first 2 batters going 4 for 6. McCoy might actually have a better offensive performance. He has only 1 hit. That was a big one, a triple, an RBI in the second, but he's been on base all 3 times he's come to the plate. He's also been hit by the pitch and walked.
Yeah, to finish the thought I had a moment ago, though, a lot of coaches have started to think about the strategy that if you can end a game early, if you can end a game in 3, 4, 5 innings, you want to do that because the more pitches your pitcher accumulates, the more it penalizes them not being able to pitch again for a certain number of days. So you move through your bullpen faster, particularly as you start thinking about the district tournament coming up that starts next week. So, this is one that Wekiva would like to put away relatively soon here. In the scenario you're at now, the good news if you're Wekiva is that you have 2 runners in scoring position. You've got the bases loaded, and you've got a pitcher who is
and your number 3 hitter.
Your number 3 hitter is up, and you've got a pitcher who's clearly struggling to find the strike zone right now. On the other hand, if you're Evans, the good news is that you have 2 outs on the board, so the play is at first available. Any base would be a force out at this point. It would prevent a run from scoring.
So the 2-0 count on McCoy is Joseph back to work. And make that 2-1.
Yeah, I wouldn't have swung at that one either. That was not a great pitch to swing at, but the umpire was right. It was in the strike zone. But especially with a 2-0 count, you don't need to be chasing those.
And that one is swung on contact, scooped, and muffed. by Ramirez. So that'll up the lead to 13-1, and bases remain loaded, as does the 2 outs. And McCoy, again, only 1 hit, but he's reached base all 4 times he's come up to bat.
McCoy advances to first, 1 run scores, and next at the plate for the Mustangs, pitcher number 15, Jackson Zapata. So Zapata so far has a complete game for the Mustangs. If we do, in fact, end up going to a next half inning, we'll see if he continues on the mound for Wekiva.
Yeah, and speaking of which, there is activity down in the Wekiva bullpen.
Yeah, I would say, again, based on those pitch count limits, that if we do go to a top of the 5th inning, it is probable that Zapata would come out as the pitcher regardless of his performance.
If Mark and I were betting men, we'd put our money on Ye. And
yeah, I couldn't get out of the way of that one. We'll have a bruise in the morning. That's an automatic run.
So we might not. It's now, I'd probably say 50-50 as to not having to go to that 5th inning. 1 more run. Excuse me, actually 2 more runs.
Zapata advances to first. Next at the plate for Wekiva, number 31, Fonseca. So again, this is originally Demir Simon's slot in the batting lineup. We are at slot number 5 now, if you're keeping score at home.
A 14-1 lead for Wekiva in the bottom of the 4th. Bases still loaded, and there are 2 outs, and there's some, I guess, say, hit music.
Yeah, I know. I should point out that it is not only sportsmanlike, but part of the rules of baseball, that if you have a ball coming at you, you do have to at least make a good faith effort to avoid being hit by it. You cannot step into the path of the ball. And he did that there. The next pitch is wide on the other side, so we have an inside ball and an outside ball for 2-0.
2-0 count.
Bases remain loaded. Play is available at any base to get the 3rd out.
And Joseph on the mound, and a 3-0 count now. And as if often said, no place to put the batter.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're 5 balls away from ending the game.
So Joseph back to work, trying to get the strike and avoiding the walk. And no dice as that ball wide, 4 straight balls. And now we are on the verge of the run rule coming into effect with Luis Perez stepping up to the plate.
Goodwin scores. Fonseca on to first. Next at the plate, shortstop number 17, Luis Perez.
So Perez 0 for 2 tonight, walked in the 1st inning and scored. And bases loaded with 2 outs. So if you joined us late, 15 runs after the 3rd inning, and the game is declared over. Obviously, the team in the lead wins the game, and Wekiva now 14-run lead, and there's no place to put the batter. A 1-1 count now on Perez. Wekiva 8-12. 8 wins is the most wins they've had in about a decade, so looking to set a new standard as the curveball delivered up high from Joseph. Joseph came in the 3rd inning, replacing Ramirez. And by the way, Wekiva has sent all 9 men to the plate, too, this inning. The 2nd time this game they've done that.
So with a 3-1 count now, we are a ball away from the walk-off. That would be a literal walk-off.
And the pitch.
Perez
swings. He's going to do it himself, and it'll be a walk-off victory. Well, walk-off run rule as Perez slashes that ball into the gap. It hit the fence. We're right on the K in Wekiva. And so Perez will not get credit for a double since the run came in before he got to 2nd, but he does get credit for the RBI. And your final score, actually, he does, all the runs come in, so the final score is 17-1 from Mustang Field.
That takes us to the end of the ball game. 5 runs scored on on 1 hit, bringing us to a total of 17 runs on 4 hits with 7 Trojan errors. Trojans with 1 run on 3 hits and 1 Mustang error. Final score 17-1 here on senior night, and that will do it. Not just for the ball game, but for our home portion of season 15. We'd like to thank everyone for coming out to join us here at Mustang Field, as well as special thanks to those of you who joined us online on YouTube or the NFHS network. Those of you here in the ballpark, please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Those of you on the broadcast, thanks again for tuning in, and we hope you will subscribe before you go. And Neil, we got some parting words for season 15.
Yeah, just getting back to the game, Wekiva does up its record to 9-12 again. This has been a rebuilding season. Season 2 under Mike Scudero. Last year they won 6, which was the most victories they had taken in about a decade. So obviously this year they've upped that another couple levels. They have 1 more game left on Wednesday night. Opportunity to reach the 10-win mark certainly would be a important milestone to gain some momentum, but also something to build on heading into next season. On a personal note now, of course, this is our last home game. And quite frankly, at this point, I'm not sure what the future holds for me. For those of you who do listen to us on a regular basis, you probably have noticed I have not been calling as many games as I was before. I have been working for Varsity Sports Network the last couple of months, as well as teaming up with Mark to do the Wekiva Mustangs. I've also, as Mark introduced me, I am the only dedicated reporter, whether it's print or broadcast, that covers Wekiva on a regular basis. I do that for the Apopka Chief. And I've had the opportunity to not only call games for Wekiva, but just to be a part of this community for those 15 years. I did work as a substitute teacher for about 5 years as well. And getting back to, I just don't know exactly what the future holds, but I'd just like to take this opportunity as we sign off on the watershed, the milestone 15th year. If this is the case that this is my last game that I call for Wekiva, I'd just like to thank everybody. It's really been an honor and a privilege to bring these games to you and to also cover the school. And Mark, also, I'll always be grateful for you giving me an opportunity to be your on-air talent.
Well, it is my honor as well, Neil. Thank you for joining me this season and for the last 15 years here at Wekiva. I do hope that we continue to get to work together in the future, whether that is on a regular basis or on a more sporadic basis. But you are always welcome on Wekiva's broadcast, and certainly you have been really the reason that Wekiva has been able to get the equal level of coverage to the more established Apopka here in the greater Apopka community. So we want to thank you for everything that you've done to keep Wekiva in the spotlight, both on the broadcast side of things and on the print journalism side of things. And we're getting ready now here to sign off for season 15.
Yeah, so one last time, Mark, take us home.
All right, well, we also would be remiss if we did not thank our friends at Wekiva TV Broadcast Production. You see the names there of all the students in Keith Dickerson's program who have been bringing you Wekiva TV not just tonight but all season long. We want to thank them for really adding to the professionalism of our broadcasts as we have continued to grow this program over the last few years. We look forward to continuing to partner with Mr. Dickerson and his students at Wekiva TV. Also thanks to those in the Wekiva Athletic Department, Coach Bruce, Coach Griffin, Coach Scudero, our head AT, Brian Berg. Again, for Neil Fisher, this is Mark Barchi, voice of the Mustangs, SID and executive producer of Wekiva Sports. This has been a presentation of Wekiva High School Athletics in association with Orange Technical College, both a proud part of Orange County Public Schools. We hope you'll join us tomorrow for softball senior night. But until then, good night from